Hey everybody, and welcome back to Just Drones. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a few Part 107 METAR questions that you could possibly see on the Part 107 exam. Now these are questions that have been pulled from an actual 107 remote pilot exam, so it's a good possibility you'll see these same questions. So before we get started, let's talk about what a METAR actually is. A METAR is simply an aviation routine weather report that is a standard code format for hourly surface weather observations. It's usually updated 55 minutes past the hour. Sometimes it's not though. It can be very close to those 55 minutes, but not always. You can also have a METAR that is labeled as SPECI. A SPECI METAR is simply a METAR that has been updated on a non-routine basis. So this could be because there was an error in the first METAR that was reported, or the weather has changed so dramatically within that past hour that they needed to update it sooner than 55 minutes past the hour. A METAR also contains important weather information. This is why they are released. It contains information such as temperature, dew point, winds, visibility, ceilings, and other factors in weather such as thunderstorms, rain, whether that rain's heavy rain, light rain, snow, volcanic ash, dust storms. It contains anything you would need to know that's very important as far as weather goes within that hour time frame, within that surface observation going on at that airport. So now that we know what a METAR actually is, let's take a look at a few sample problems. So the very first one, it says refer to figure 12. So when you go in to take your Part 107 exam, you'll get this booklet. And this booklet contains all the figures that you could possibly need on this exam. So when it tells you to refer to figure 12, you simply open that booklet up and find figure 12. And then you read the rest of the question. What are the wind conditions at Wink, Texas? And the airport identifier being KINK. So because they're giving you that airport identifier, makes it very easy to find that specific airport and the METAR that's being released for it on figure 12. So now that we read the question, let's look at the figure. So we have a few airports that have released METARs. Looks like we have 5 different airports. So the very first thing we have to do is find Wink. And looking at this, we can go ahead and tell Wink, Texas is at the top. But before we get into it, let's take a look at the possible answer choices we have. That's very important too. Always look at your answer choices, kind of get an idea to know what you're working with. So we have A, 110 at 2 knots, gusts of 18 knots. We have B, 110 at 12 knots, gusts of 18 knots. And we have C, 130 at 4 knots. I can go ahead and tell you that when you take the remote pilot exam, you're always going to get 3 answer choices. And 2 of those answer choices are going to be very similar. Look at A and B. We have 110 at 2 knots, 110 at 12 knots. Just a little bit of a difference. You have a 1 in front of 2 in B, so 12 knots, and then you have 2 knots in A. So keep that in mind. They like to give you 2 possible answer choices that are very similar. And then they always give you another answer choice that you can just really throw out almost as soon as you look at it. So keep that in mind whenever you're taking this exam. There's 2 choices that look very similar, but only one of them is right. It's not a select all that apply type deal. Only one of them is going to be right. So now that we've looked at our possible answer choices, let's go back to figure 12. All right, on figure 12, we have found the specific METAR that the question was looking for, Wink, Texas. So because it's labeled METAR, we know it's a observation report, a surface observation at that airport. And anytime you're dealing with a METAR, this is the typical coding format that you get. So an easy way I like to remember how a METAR starts, it always starts with what it is, so it's a METAR, where it is, it's at Wink, Texas, the airport identifier being KINK, and when it was. So it was on the 12th of that month at 1845 Zulu. Remember, it's always going to be reported in Zulu time, not local time. If you wanted to find the local time, you would have to add, depending on what time zone you're in, a certain amount of time, or subtract a certain amount of time, depending on where you live at. But it's always going to be given in Zulu time because that's universal time in aviation. And then it's winds. So it's what it is, where it is, when it is, and the winds. That's how I remember it. So it's the 4 W's. So our winds, it's always going to start off with the wind direction. So looking at this, it says 110. So that is where the wind is coming from. 110, 110 degrees. If you remember from a couple of my past videos, wind direction is measured in degrees. So 360 degrees, that's going to be north. 90 degrees, that's going to be east. 180 degrees, that's going to be south. 270 degrees, that's going to be west. So if you have 110 degrees, that means it's somewhere between 90 degrees and 180 degrees, correct? So that would tell me I have a southeast wind direction at 110 degrees. The next part is going to be your wind speed. So we have 12 knots. This is your sustained wind. This is how fast it's blowing. 12 knots. The G stands for gusts. So if you have 12 knot winds and gusts of up to 18 knots. That means at certain times, just at random times within that hour, when the wind was being detected, it was a steady wind of 12 knots, and then every now and then it would gust up to 18 knots. So a 6-knot difference. The next one you have is 15 statute miles, which is visibility. So remember, under Part 107, if it's less than 3 statute miles, you're not flying. It's illegal. You have to have at least 3 statute miles. So the weather looks really good here. 15 statute miles, plenty of visibility. The next one is your cloud coverage. SKC just means clear skies, or skies clear. The next one after that is your temperature and dew point. Keep in mind this is always in Celsius, not in Fahrenheit. And there's a couple of Part 107 questions that try to trick you. They'll give you the temperature and dew point, and it'll give you 25 degrees Celsius, 25 degrees Fahrenheit as another answer choice. Always know that this is measured in Celsius, never Fahrenheit. So 25 degrees Celsius on the temperature, 17 degrees Celsius on the dew point. And then the next part is your altimeter setting. This is what manned pilots use. They dial it in on their Colesman window on their altimeter to put the current altimeter setting at that airport. So the A stands for altimeter, and then the number is 30.00, and it's measured in inches of mercury. That's the pressure at that current airport. So now that we know that, just going back to the winds, we know that the winds are 110 at 12, gusts of 18 knots. That's all we were looking for. I was just going through the METAR to give you an example of what a METAR is typically formatted as. So 110 at 12, gusts of 18 knots. We've got our answer now. So going back to the possible answers, we could throw away C, obviously. It's not even close to 110, it's 130 at 4 knots. There wasn't even a 4 mentioned in that wind observation. And so now we look at A and B. So 110 at 2 knots, well, it's not 2, it's 12. So make sure you read it all the way through. Don't just skim it. You might miss a number. So it's 110 at 12 knots, gusts of 18 knots. So as you can see, A and B are pretty close to each other. If you were just skimming through that wind reading, you could have easily chose A because you didn't see that 1. So always read the question and answers very carefully before you make your choice. Let's look at another example. Refer to figure 12. So we're still on 12. I have seen on most Part 107 METAR questions, they always like to stay on this figure. So if you look at the remote pilot book at figure 12, before you even go in to take that exam, you're going to be ahead of the game when it comes to METAR reports. So refer to figure 12. The wind direction, okay, so it's another wind question, just worded different in a different airport. The wind direction and velocity at KJFK is from, so let's look at the report. We have figure 12 again. Nothing has changed. Okay, we have the report here. Now let's look at our possible answer choices. We have 110 at 2 knots, gusts of 18. So one of the same possible answer choices as the last one. We have B, winds calm. And we have C, 180 at 4 knots. So let's go back and find KJFK. All right, so KJFK is just a little bit different. And the reason why it's just a little bit different is because it's labeled as SPECI, not as METAR. So that means that this came out on a non-routine basis. So either the weather changed dramatically or there was an error in the last report. Just judging by this visibility and the weather conditions, it was probably just because the weather changed dramatically. So we have KJFK, 12th of the month, 1853 Zulu. Winds are at 180 at 4 knots. Boom. There it is. 180 at 4 knots. You don't have to read anything else. It was just asking for the wind. That's the answer, 180 at 4 knots. Simple as that. We just went through 3 other lines before that. We saw that SPECI, saw that's at JFK, so we confirmed that's the right airport, the time, and the winds. That's all we're looking for. We were looking for that to make sure that it's the right airport and what the winds were being reported at that specific airport. 180 at 4 knots. So going back to our answer choices, we can throw out A, we can throw out B, it's definitely not winds calm, and it just leaves us with C, 180 at 4 knots. All right, let's look at this one. Refer to figure 12 once again. Now it's kind of asking more of a overall question. It's asking not for something totally specific like the winds, it's asking for the current conditions. So what are the current conditions depicted for Chicago Midway Airport, or KMDW? So going back to figure 12, we're going to make sure we look in our book and make sure that it is still labeled as figure 12. Now that we've done that, let's look at our possible answer choices. All right, we have A. So it looks like it's wanting us to find, just by looking at the answer choices, what the cloud coverage is like and the visibility and the weather at that time, whether it's light rain, heavy rain, or moderate rain. So our first answer choice that we could possibly choose is sky 700 feet overcast, visibility 11 statute miles, and light rain. B, sky 7,000 feet overcast, visibility 1.5 statute mile, heavy rain. And C, sky 700 feet overcast, visibility 1.5 statute mile, moderate rain. So this is not a trick of the trade or anything, because sometimes it might not be true. So again, with answer choices, you'll have 2 that are very close, and then you have 1 that you can typically throw out. So the one that's very noticeable to me that I could possibly throw out, now in this question, you never know. It could be the right answer. But looking at this, we have two skies 700 feet overcast. And then we have one that's 7,000 feet overcast. So just looking at that beginning part, that one question, or that one possible answer choice, B, 7,000 feet overcast is a lot different from 700. So I might just kind of, in my mind, go ahead and eliminate that possible answer choice. And that leaves me with A or C. So let's go back and look at figure 12. So now that we have found KMDW, we know that it's also a SPECI METAR. We're at KMDW. It's the 12th of the month, 1856 Zulu. The winds are 320 at 5 knots. Visibility, we've got 1.5 statute mile. That's what 1.5 looks like on a METAR. 1 and then your 1/2. So 1.5 statute miles. The next part is the current weather condition. So because it shows RA, that tells me that there is rain. Now, how would I know if it was light rain? There would be a minus sign in front of RA. So it's not light rain. It's just rain, also known as moderate rain. If it was heavy rain, there would be a plus sign in front of RA. And then the cloud coverage, or the cloud ceiling in this case, OVC. OVC stands for overcast. And this tells me that at this airport, at KMDW, the cloud coverage is overcast at 700 feet. Now you might be looking at this and think, why would it be 700 feet? 7 is the very end, so wouldn't it be overcast at 7 feet? No, with METARs, always add 2 zeros behind your cloud heights. So whatever cloud height it is, it does not matter. If it has a number, add 2 zeros behind it. So it's overcast at 700 feet. And this is measured above ground level. It's not an MSL number, it's an above ground level number. And then it looks like we have our temperature and dew point, 17 degrees Celsius for temperature, 16 degrees Celsius for the dew point. But it doesn't ask all of that, right? It's just asking for the visibility and cloud coverage. So looking at this, we can eliminate the rest of it. So we get 1.5 statute miles. Rain, so it's moderate rain because it's not light rain, it's not heavy rain. So that tells me it's moderate. Overcast at 700 feet. Remember to add those 2 zeros. It's very, very important because you will get that answer wrong if you add anything else. Just add those 2 zeros no matter what. So going back to our answer choices, we obviously can throw away 7,000 feet. That would be if you added 3 zeros, right? So no to add 2, not 3. So we can throw away B. We can throw away A because in A, the sky's coverage is correct, 700 feet overcast, but look at the visibility. The visibility is incorrect. It wasn't 11 statute miles, it was 1.5. And it also shows light rain. We didn't see a minus sign in front of RA, correct? So that tells me that it's not light rain. If there was a minus sign, then yes, it would be light rain. So the correct answer is obviously C. The sky is at 700 foot overcast, visibility 1.5 statute mile, and moderate rain. All right, we have one more question to look at. This is the final question in figure 12. So refer to figure 12. The remarks section for KMDW has RAB 35 listed. This entry means what? So going back to KMDW again. So same airport, just a different question. It's looking for a different information. It shows RAB 35. So what does RAB 35 mean? So first look at figure 12. Make sure you're on the right figure. Then look at your possible answer choices. So A, we have rain began at 1835. So within that hour, the rain started at 1835 Zulu. B, the barometer has risen by 0.35 inches of mercury. So remember that altimeter setting, the 30.00. It's saying here that this means that barometer, which is what your measurement was risen by 0.35 inches of mercury. And then C, visibility has been reduced to 0.35 statute miles of visibility. All right, so if I don't know what this means, it's kind of hard to throw out some of these possible answer choices, right? So let's go back and look at figure 12. So we first find MDW. Again, the weather observation has not changed. It's the same exact figure. So we can go ahead and go through all of this and go past the altimeter setting. So A2980 is where we start. That's our altimeter setting. So let's go to A2980, 29.80, and then past that, we have something that's labeled as RMK. And then that's when we see our RAB35. So RMK, what does that stand for? That is just the remarks section of the METAR. It's basically the section where they give you some extra information like, hey, this might be something that the pilot would like to know about this specific METAR. So the remarks section is simply just that. It's remarks about that METAR of the weather observation within that past hour. So RMK means remarks, and then we have RAB35. RAB simply means rain began. So rain began at 35 minutes past the hour. So this surface observation was observed at 1856 Zulu. The rain began 35 minutes before that. So at 1835, that's when rain began at this specific airport. So rain began 35 minutes past the hour. So looking at our possible answer choices, we can throw away B and we can throw away C, and that leaves us with A. Rain began at 1835 Zulu. So that's it for today, guys. I really appreciate y'all looking in on this video. I hope this helped. The next video I'll be releasing is a couple of TAF questions. Not much difference there, just a little bit of a different format, but it's the same information. It's actually not as much information since it's a forecast. If you are enjoying my content, please remember to like and subscribe. And I also have the Etsy shop set up now where I am selling flashcards. You can buy the Airspace and Regulation flashcards together as a bundle for only $5. I've been getting a lot of good reviews on this, so if you need help studying, I really recommend getting those flashcards. But again, thanks for liking and subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching. I hope this is helping you get prepared for your Part 107 exam. I hope you all have a great rest of the week, and stay tuned for new videos coming every few weeks. Have a great one.